Start with questioning what it is that makes you happy, what brings you joy. This is where it gets really fun. Have fun with it, okay? You are alive. Don't forget that. You are alive. Welcome to Trujectory, the podcast committed to helping you align with who you really are, your true self. The one who is so comfortable with their uniqueness, so in love with life, and so effortlessly able to manifest everything they always dreamt of. I want this podcast to be a resource to help you jump into the driver's seat rather than continuing as a passenger in your own story. Let's understand why we choose to hold ourselves back so we can shed the lies that we've programmed into our minds. We can heal the root causes and step into the epic human that we know we can be. If you're ready to start aligning with your trajectory, let's do it. Hey fam, thank you for tuning into this episode. This is number 2. So I want to dive in a little bit into what the whole deal with trajectory is. Why am I so passionate about people stepping into and owning and loving their true authentic selves? What does that look like? And why do I believe that that literally is a superpower? And when you can embody your true self, you become superhuman. So let's go back to the start of my little journey so far. When I was younger, I grew up in Canberra, small town, very government orientated. It's kind of like the Washington, D.C. of Australia. Parliament House is here. And so a lot of the jobs that people have here are in government. And that's fine for a lot of people. But for me, it was really disheartening seeing people going to just lots of office jobs. And a lot of the time I watched people going in and out of these offices and they just looked miserable. That was the vibe that I got. Whether that was true or not, that was what I perceived. And I was always a dreamer, always have been, always will be. And I'm finally at the point where I'm super proud of that rather than feeling like a fish out of water. I wanted what was very simple. I just wanted to be happy. I wanted a happy life. And I saw that work was such a huge portion of everyone's life. So I wanted my work to be happy. I wanted to enjoy it. I wanted to have fun. I wanted to be doing things that lit me up rather than made me feel like a slave and made me count down the hours until the work week was done, just to have these fleeting 2 days off on the weekend, and then it all repeats over and over again until you retire. And that was the model that I grew up around. And it really depressed me. It made me super just anxious about what am I going to do with my life. So ever since I was very young, I was trying to figure out who I am, what I want, so that I could figure out what I could do for a living that would bring me joy, that would make every day fun and happy. And, since there weren't that many examples of that around me, I turned to movies and to TV shows where you would have characters that were following their dreams and chasing goals and, achieving the impossible and all of these things. And it just made me feel more at home, which is, probably in hindsight when I look back now, why I ended up in the film industry. But we'll get to that. When I look back, it's incredible all the things that we weren't taught. We weren't taught how to regulate our emotions. And these things, obviously, a lot of this we weren't taught because teachers, the governing bodies at that time, they weren't really aware of how important these things were. But we weren't taught how to regulate our emotions. We weren't taught about how to heal ourselves. We weren't taught anything about consciousness. We weren't we weren't able to understand that we are creating our reality. And again, this is because people just didn't have this understanding for such a long time. It's only now that there's so much more information available to us all the time that we're getting insight into so many different experiences and people's understanding of how this universe is working, how the structure is made up, how we're all connected, and quantum physics is becoming a louder, more prominent understanding. Like, we're really looking into how to measure such tiny particles of energy so we can see that, all of the things that we are creating in our reality have actually originated from our minds, from our consciousness. And so when you're not aware that you are creating your reality with your thoughts and with your emotions, then you're kind of creating a shit show without even realizing it. And then you end up developing this life that you don't understand that it was you who brought it in. And so then you can look around and go, well, I'm not happy with this, I'm not happy with that, and that's just the way life is. And then you get into a bit of a feedback loop. So you're looking around, you're not happy with your life, and then your thoughts think, ugh, life is so crap, nothing's good here, ugh. And then because you're thinking that, you're creating more of that. So you're just constantly bringing more things into your reality that you don't actually want there. And so it's a bit of a vicious cycle. But until we had the understanding, and it's only recently for myself that I've started to research these things and look into them, then how are we meant to know what to do, where to go, how to act, how to heal ourselves, how to look after our emotions, and how to be able to regulate things so that we don't get attached to every negative thing that happens to us that then brings us down, that then makes us create more negative experiences in our reality. So when we're not understanding who we are at our core, we're really only living at about, 20% capacity. We're using our basic functions, we're getting from A to B, we're doing what's necessary, and we're living these lives that are just very status quo, just mediocre. They're, and if some people, if anyone's happy with that sort of life, then that's brilliant. The whole point of this is to be happy. But I know there are so many people that go to jobs that they do not want to go to. And that's what breaks my heart. And the reason it breaks my heart is because I did the same thing for so long. So because I was so hell-bent on figuring out who I am, what I want to do so that I could figure out this dream career so that I could be happy every day of my life when I was older, because I was so hell-bent on that, I ended up starting work really young. At 12 years old, I was doing gymnastics. So I went to the gym coach and the owner of the gymnastics center, and I asked her if I could start coaching. So I started coaching gymnastics at 12. And then I jumped from job to job to job all the way up until 24. So it was 12 years of working so many different jobs that I did not enjoy to get to the point where I realized I couldn't do this anymore. I even traveled overseas. I traveled to America and to the UK, trying to live over there and work over there, thinking this is where I'll find myself. She must be waiting for me over here because I can't find her back in Australia. And, when I look back now, obviously I was just running away. I was constantly just running, keeping myself busy, trying not to pay attention to that deep inner knowing that there's so much healing that I need to do here. There's so much discovery work that I need to do. I didn't know where to start, what that looked like. I didn't even know that was a thing. So a lot of running, a lot of working. I worked myself to the bone. I would try and do little creative endeavors on the side, whether it was filming friends doing a dance routine and making it into a little music video, or writing music and trying to learn how to play instruments, or working with producers and creating songs that when I look back now, I just want to cringe. Very cute, but yeah, definitely nothing I'm going to be wanting to share with the public anytime soon. And yeah, so it was constantly this mix of trying to find happiness and also balancing all of the responsibilities that I had, and all within the mindset of you have to work really hard. You have to work really hard to get what you want. And the belief was that, only a certain percentage of people really live a happy life. The rest of us schmucks, we just have to do what we've got to do to get by, and we've just got to hustle and grind and keep pushing. So it was this really, really sad mentality. It was nothing to aspire to, really. So I was constantly in conflict. And so I ended up actually going to work in the government, in the one place that had made me so scared about my future. But it was because of money, right? It was the fear of not having enough money to have a good life. And back then, that was the measure of happiness, success, was just having good money. And the government paid really well, especially for my age. So when I was from 18 to 24, I was working in the government. And when I started doing that, I started watching myself get more and more depressed. I started putting on weight. The highlight of my day was having a little drawer of candy, whether it was, little Freddo Frogs or caramellos or some sort of chocolate, or what are they called? Caramel crowns. They're these biscuits that, oh my gosh, they're delicious. I'm not allowed near them anymore. I don't let myself. I can't just have one. I'll have like the whole thing. But I just watched myself getting more and more depressed, and I would look at the calendar every day when I would come into work. I wouldn't look at it for work reasons. I would look at it and schedule out what days I could be sick, because, oh, I had a sick day 3 weeks ago, so maybe it'd be reasonable if I have one week from now. Yeah, no one would be suspicious that I'm just, pulling a sickie, faking it. And so I was constantly having these sick days, and then I actually started really getting sick constantly because, again, I didn't understand that my mind, my thoughts create my reality. So I was trying to fake being sick so much that I started getting sick a lot. So then I was on antibiotics, and that's a whole other story. We all know, a lot of us know now, how awful antibiotics are for your system. So I was constantly taking antibiotics and just demolishing all of my gut bacteria. And so I was constantly just getting sick again and again and again. And I was looking forward at my life going, this cannot be what life is. This just can't. I have so much passion in me. I have so much energy, and I want to have fun. And I feel like I could get paid to do something that I love doing. It was just there was no one around me that was showing me that example other than, like I said, people on movies and TV and all sorts of things. So eventually it just got to breaking point. I had tried to go to America. That didn't work over there. There was a lot of visa issues, and the types of jobs, that you could get over there were very minimal in comparison to the money that I could make here in Australia. So then the same was in London. I had to work. Luckily I went to London with about 16 grand savings. And in about 6 months, while working full time in London, I went through that whole 16 grand just spending it on rent and groceries and stuff like that while I was working full time. So the money that I made working was not even close to the money I needed to pay rent. And I genuinely don't know how people survive in the UK. So props to all of you, hats off to all of you, because it seemed, at least at that time, it seemed like the wages were very low in comparison to how high the rent was. And I wasn't living anywhere super fancy. It was like a group house. So anyway, I just didn't feel like, if I'm going to do a job that I don't like, at least I could go back to Australia and get decent money for it. So I jumped around the world a little bit and come back to the same place. I was sitting in another government job, really disliking it, and I just got to breaking point. It got to the point where I figured, look, what have I got to lose? I got to try and do something. I got to try and figure this out, because otherwise I'm just going to be here. And even if I try something and I fail, the worst that can happen is I'll come straight back here and nothing will have changed. So, let's do it. And so I ended up applying to go to a film school. It was a film school in Sydney. So I was living at Canberra at the time, and it's about a 3-hour drive. So I had to move interstate, and luckily I got into the school. It was a 2-year full-time course. So I went from working full-time to studying full-time. But of course I still needed money to pay for everything. So I was then working pretty much every night and weekends. But even though I was doing that, I was busting my ass. I was, the film school itself was really intense. We were doing 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, but then there were 20 of us in a class, and each of us had to make 8 films over the 2-year period. And each of those films we all worked on, if that makes sense. So we were all grouped up. So there were countless films that I was working on, like little short films and lyrical pieces and all sorts of things. And so it was a constant scheduling, debate. We were constantly working with each other on weekends, after hours. Then I was also working full time, and I was doing my own projects on the side. And I had no time to myself. And guess what? I loved it. I was over the moon. I was happy every single day. I was surrounded by people who had the same passion as me to make something creative and to have fun and to be weird and to be different. And still to this day, I still smile whenever I think about my film school days, because it was just insane. I think the teachers, the owners of the school, were a little bit naive. They gave us access to the facility 24/7. So we had all of these Mac computers that we could work with. We had a big screening room. We had theaters. We had all sorts of things. So you can imagine the shit that we got up to. We made a lot of films that weren't in the curriculum, and we also had a lot of screening nights and a lot of parties, and on top of that we were all studying and working full time. So it just showed me that, it's not about it just showed me that you can still work really, really hard, but you can be doing what you love and it doesn't feel like hard work. And so that was just a little insight into, okay, it's possible. And now I'm never going back to that old life. I'm going to keep doing whatever I have to do to continue doing what I love. So when I finished film school, very luckily, I got a job at a production house, and I've been working at that same production house for 10 years this year. And it's never felt like work. I have an amazing business colleague, started off as my boss, and now we do everything together, and it's just a blast. I can be myself. I can dress however I want to dress. I can talk the way I want to talk. I don't have to be in a stifling situation that's making me feel like I can't be my true self. And this, as you can probably tell, this is why I'm so passionate about other people stepping into their true selves and then finding their true path, their career, their dream job that makes them light up. Because for me, it was just, I was going down a really dark path. I was getting really, really depressed. I didn't want to be here anymore, and I didn't know what to do with myself. And that's why it got to the point where I just figured I may as well take a risk and get into this film school thing. But gosh, I just really don't like the thought of seeing people doing something that they don't like. So there's a lot that goes into finding out who you are and then stepping into what you really want to do. But it is so worth the work. It is worth the investigation. It's worth putting time in. And even if you just start really small, that's the point, right? You can't just jump and change everything overnight. You've got to start small. But even just starting with a few questions like, what do I really want? What makes me happy? When was the last time I was doing something that I was just, time was flying by and I wasn't even aware of it? When did I lose time? That's when you know you're really enjoying something. Because still to this day, 10 years later, when I jump into a film shoot or an edit, I'll look at the clock 4 hours, 5 hours later, and I haven't even eaten. And it feels like half an hour has passed. It still blows my mind, but it just goes to show the whole cliche saying, time flies when you're having fun. So why not? Let's all try and have fun every day. So when it comes to healing, I truly believe that you need to shed the layers first. You need to shed the limiting beliefs, the stories that you've told yourself that have kept you stuck in the place that you've been for quite a while. They might be stories like, I wouldn't be able to support my family if I did anything other than this boring job. I don't have the education to be able to jump into this other role. I don't have the confidence to go to an interview. I don't believe in myself enough. It could be anything, right? Looking at these limiting beliefs are the first step. It's really important to start breaking down those things. We've all been programmed since we were younger. We've all been led to believe that we have to work really hard and that life is a struggle. And it can be, right? It can be a freaking struggle, but it doesn't have to be. That's the thing that I've learned, and that's what I want to try and help other people to realize if they haven't yet, that life doesn't have to be a struggle. It is what you make it because you are creating it with your thoughts, with the energy that you are putting out into the world. You are attracting what you are. So if you are love and abundance and you feel amazing all the time, you're attracting all of these epic things into your world. Have you ever known someone who is just constantly happy and they're just full of life and light and they're just always getting things their way and they're just up leveling constantly, just one to another? They might have some trials that come up in their life. All of us have to go through certain initiations to shed more layers. They're all for us, not, everything that happens doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. And even though that's something that you probably hear a lot and it sort of goes in one ear and out the other, it's very true. Everything that comes into your reality is happening to help shape you, chisel you, or shed layers so that you can start to realize who you truly are. It's just a matter of how much are you paying attention to it. Are you being a bit oblivious and just going through the motions and not really taking note and taking the lessons as they come? Because that's a really quick way to keep you where you are in an unhappy state. But if you start to understand how energy works and the law of attraction, and you can look into this, there's plenty of books about it, there's plenty of speakers about it that have been around since 1800s and earlier. Really, truly, energy attracts the same resonance. So you are vibrating at a certain frequency. And whatever frequency you're vibrating at is the same thing that's what you're going to attract into you. So if you want abundance, but in your mind, you're constantly thinking, I'm poor, I'm broke, I'm broke, I'm poor, I'm poor. Well, then you are in a vibration, in a state of lack and scarcity. And you're telling the universe, I don't have money, I don't have money, I don't have money. Whereas if you flip that, and I know at first it sounds really weird and it seems really hard to do, but to flip that perspective and start to tell yourself, I am abundant. Abundance is my birthright. Wealth flows to me effortlessly. Money flows to me when I do what I love for a living. This is where affirmations come into the picture. And we'll talk about that a lot more in other episodes because they have been a game changer for me and for many other people. There are people who purely teach affirmations, teach people how to do affirmations, and they are killing it in the game because they understand the power of these things. And what it is simply a reprogramming of your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is constantly drawing into you the things that it believes to be true. So if you're telling it, I'm poor, I'm poor, I'm poor, then you are going to keep attracting things into your reality that confirm that belief. So starting to look at maybe doing some affirmations is a huge game changer. And hit me up on socials, on Instagram. If you want to know more about affirmations, let me know and we can do more episodes sooner than planned about that. But once you start to reprogram, this is when you start to raise your vibration, right? And then you start to attract effortlessly the things that you want. But you have to believe. And this is the thing. It's like I always think of the scene in Hook, you know, that movie with Robin Williams where he's Peter Pan and they're all sitting at this table and it's an empty table and he has to believe the food is there before he sees it. And at first he's like, what the hell? Like, I'm not just going to believe there's food there. But that's manifestation. He literally believed that there was going to be food on that table and soon enough it eventuated. It's just a matter of time. Things take time to manifest into your reality. So you can't expect to go, I'm wealthy. Boom. Where is it? Why isn't it here yet? Well, screw this manifestation thing doesn't work. You've got to be able to be reasonable about it and be clear on what you want and really raise your energetic vibration. So raise the emotion around it. When you think I'm wealthy, I'm abundant, you don't want to think about it with your shoulders shrugged over and, you know, awful body language and low mood and low tone and all these things. You want to be sitting upright. You want to close your eyes and imagine the feeling of these amazing things that would come into your world if you're abundant. Once you have the feeling coupled with the thought, that's an electromagnetic signature that you are putting out into the field. And then that is going to attract to you the things that you want. So the key through all of this is to be kind to yourself. I have done the whole beat yourself up process. I became a master at it. If I could have gotten paid to do something, if I could have gotten paid to do that, I would have been loaded ages ago. But it really just works against you. You need to back yourself. You need to be kind to yourself. You're learning things now that you never thought that you could have learned in the past. The things I've even spoken about in this podcast, I never thought I would have spoken about these sorts of things a couple of years ago. I didn't even know they were possible. But I have manifested that many things into my reality now through affirmations, through belief, through the coupling of a clear thought, a clear intention of what I want, and an elevated high vibe emotion, to the point where I can't ignore that this is real anymore. And it's not just me doing it. There are millions of people who are understanding these techniques now and are doing it. And like I said, we're in this age now where information is so readily available. So look into law of attraction, look into manifestation, vibration, resonance. Tesla, my hero, absolutely loved him. Nikola Tesla. We're not talking about Elon. Nikola Tesla, the inventor. His main thing that he constantly said was, think about the universe in terms of frequency, vibration, and resonance. And again, he is talking about manifestation. And manifestation is it's just the way we live. It's something that we're all doing all of the time. We just don't know it. And until you're aware that you're doing it, you will be creating a life that doesn't align with you, that you don't really want. So check in on your thoughts. Check in on excuse me, check in on your thoughts, check in on your limiting beliefs, check in on the way that you're speaking to yourself. Because the more you speak down to yourself, the worse you feel, right? The lower your vibration goes, the more you attract lower vibrational things that don't suit you. It's a vicious process. You need to start being kind to yourself. That is such a huge step in the process of finding your true self. Because the goal here is for us to find that true, authentic being that's inside of us, that is not distorted, that is not afraid, that is fearless, that is, creative, to just abundance of creativity. And to absolutely love that person. That's the point here. We're all unique. The only reason we try to change ourselves is because we've been told that we need to fit in. That's sort of the thing that we all grow up feeling. Well, I want to fit in. I don't want to be different. I want to be, part of this group, part of this crowd. And the thing is, the more authentic you are, the more your true tribe will be attracted to you. Again, through manifestation, through the law of attraction. So by trying to fit in with other people, you're not only finding the wrong people, but you're minimizing who you are. You're diminishing your light. You're bending and crunching and folding yourself into all sorts of ways to fit into other people's beliefs. And the thing is, all of those other people that you're trying to fit in with, they're not sure of who they are either, usually. So it's just this big vicious process that we've all become a part of. But the time has come to change, and you all have the power within yourself to do this. It's not rocket science. It is literally step by step, baby steps every day, starting with questioning what you want, figuring out what it is that lights you up and makes you happy, being really, really kind to yourself, and understanding that everything is just a learning curve. If you make a mistake, what you would phrase as a mistake, try and reframe that as a lesson. Excellent, I've just gotten some more feedback. I understand one way not to do this thing. So that lesson, that mistake, has actually helped you. Once you take on a learning mindset, everything that you do becomes a part of your process, becomes a teacher. And it ends up helping you in the end. So there's actually no negatives. When you can reframe the way that I have learned to, it's a game changer. It really, really is. You start to see life in a completely different way. Obviously, there are still things that trigger you because we're all still shedding layers constantly. We've built so many layers up since we were so young that there's so many that have to be dropped. So you'll be doing really well for a couple of weeks. You'll be on a high. You'll be vibrating really high. You'll be attracting things that are really resonant with you and showing you what's possible. And then you might have an interaction with someone that they say 2 words and it triggers you back into the way that you used to feel when you were younger. And then again, you can look at that as, oh my gosh, that person triggered me and I'm a victim, or take responsibility of your life, which is another huge key factor here, and go, okay, what is that trigger telling me? It's giving me a little pointer saying, hey, there's some work you still need to do over here. You haven't healed this part, or there's this inner child wound or a parental wound that you haven't looked at yet. And yeah, the sky is the limit where you can go. It truly is endless. The possibilities are all there for you. But taking responsibility for everything in your life, not blaming anyone else. Everyone is doing the best that they can with what they have to work with. Don't look back at your parents and start thinking they did this wrong, they did that wrong. They did what they could because that's all they knew. And also, our parents, a lot of them, didn't have the internet like we do. We've been able to learn so much in such a short amount of time. Let's not underestimate how much that has changed the whole world. And that's only been around for what? Like in a big way, like 15, 20 years. So, I mean, social media has only been around 15 years or something, I think. Yeah, and look how much that's changed the world. So imagine where we're going to be 10 years from now. But the point is, jump on board the true path. Jump on board. Find your soul fire. Find the thing that makes you just want to wake up every morning smiling and singing and dancing like a lunatic and just jumping around. Find the life that makes you feel like you're playing every day. That's when everything else will start to align. Don't be afraid of losing people, because guess what? You are going to lose people. When you start being real, you're going to freak a lot of people out because they're going to be reminded every day that they're not being real, and they don't want to know that. They don't want to be reminded of that. You're the dreamer. You're the pioneer. You're the one who's listening to this podcast, who has a calling in them that wants to be bigger than what you are right now. You're the one who is going to start making changes, and you are going to be the one that shows the people around you what's possible just by following your heart, just by listening to that inner child that's going, hey, let's have some freaking fun while we're alive. We're not dead yet. Come on. Like, let's move. Let's jam. Let's party. Every day can be incredible. Every day is incredible. It's just the perception that we put on these things. It's the meaning that you put into things. And everything is always a choice. It's your choice to attach negative connotations to certain experiences. You could get punched in the face one day randomly by someone, and you could go, oh my God, my life is horrible. I just got punched in the face. Or you could go, oh shit, what's that here to teach me? Okay, maybe that just stopped me from walking onto the street and getting hit by a car. Maybe because I just got punched in the face, someone saw from across the road and they ran over to help me, and now I've met my new partner for my future. You never know what is happening or why it's happening, but when you can embrace it and just go with the flow and take the lessons, see every single thing that happens to you as a teacher. Life is a big ass school. That is what it is. As much as we probably didn't enjoy school when we were younger, some of us maybe did, but it was a pain in the ass a lot of the time, feeling like you had to go to school every day. Well, life is continual school, right? Get used to it because it's actually magical. You are constantly upgrading, up-leveling, and learning so many things. So anyway, I could ramble on about this for hours, but you can see why I'm so passionate about this. I've been doing this job, working at a production house for 10 years now, and I've loved every day of it. But I've always had this desire to speak, to help people step into who they truly are. So really, even though I've had a job that I love for a long time, I'm only just now stepping into the job that I longed for, that has been in my bones for so long, that I've been wanting to step into and haven't been quite sure how, and had to wait for the right time, and had a hell of a lot of healing to go through first. Oh shit. There we go. There's my teacher for today. So my light, let's see if it stays. My light just fell down. Sorry if you heard that. But there we go. All right. We'll find out what that's going to teach me later. Maybe how to attach a light a little bit better to your computer. But anyway, I really hope that you are excited to start digging a little bit deeper and finding out who you are, because I know that inside all of you, there is someone full of passion, full of love, full of life, who is really, really ready to come to the surface and start leading the way. I feel like there are still so many things that I want to say in this episode. I've tried the whole scripting thing. I can't really script. I need to be able to just have a couple of bullet points and then, just vibe. But this is me, right? This is me going through the beginning of my true path. And so I'm accepting the fact that I'm in my clunky phase. I'm labeling it my clunky phase because I had to drop perfectionism to be able to do this. Otherwise, I never would have done this. So that's another huge tip. If you are a perfectionist like I was, that's a really quick way to make sure that you never get anything done, or you never release anything. Or maybe you release one thing a year when you could be releasing 20 a year. Learn as you go and just be vulnerable, be real. This is where being yourself becomes a true superpower. When you can be vulnerable and be real and accept life as it comes to you and learn how to be kind to yourself, you start to build that vibration, that resonance, and then you start to attract things effortlessly. And this is the superhuman element of it. It's incredible. So I really, really hope that you give yourself the chance to find out who you are and just start small. Start with questioning what it is that makes you happy, what brings you joy. This is where it gets really fun. Have fun with it, okay? You are alive. Don't forget that. You are alive. You are living here. Time flies. And I don't know about you, but time is flying even more lately. So get moving, my people. Get moving. You totally got this. I'm sending you so much love, and I'll talk to you soon. Stay you, stay true. Mwah.